Welcome to 15 And, where we grow through the transformative stories and principles from the Bible. I hope you enjoy this teaching. I hope you share it with others. And I hope you go to 15and.org, click the Donate Now button, and support this mission. This was a couple decades ago. I can't remember if we had a kid yet or not. I just remember I was speaking somewhere and we were hanging out with this couple, the guy that had brought me in. And we were just like hanging out at this big, giant, beautiful lake. We're all kind of near the shore, swimming, hanging out, laughing. They had two boys, and one of their boys had kind of swam out a little bit, and nobody was watching. And it was just a random thing that I happened to turn around and look, and I watched him go under. So I swam out to him, pulled him up. He was choking, whole thing. Everybody's body was faced in the opposite direction. Like, who knows how long before somebody would have noticed. It was just a rare, random thing that I look back. God's grace, I don't know. All I know is my wife was like, "You saved a boy." I was like, "I did save a boy. Like, maybe this man can be a father." But I can't imagine what it's like for people to really not understand this model that we're teaching and fall into one of two ditches. On one ditch, they have no vigilance. Their eyes get lazy. There's not a sharpness of vision. In the other ditch, they wear themselves out. They're hyper vigilant. It's exhausting. And so what we're going to walk through today is a way to live on that razor's edge, where we don't fall into either of these ditches, but instead we can learn to sustain vigilance. Now, I think one of the most powerful ways to frame what we're going to dive into today is out of Matthew 15. So I'm going to start right there. And Jesus teaching, and actually I'm going to go back to verse 10. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, "Listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, this is what defiles them." So Jesus is teaching from an understanding that we were laying the groundwork of this series. We are rethinking evil, that it is not something that it's a demon behind every bush, but it's what comes out of you. Now, he goes into more detail on this in verse 17. He says, "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body?" Because in their minds, everything was about this external purity code. But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person. Now, this isn't just some random list Jesus is throwing out. He's bringing them back to an awareness, and his audience would have known that, the 10 Commandments, and he's ordering them. You can see this progression all the way down to what starts in the way that you talk bad about people. He says, this is what defiles a person. But eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. Remember, he came to fulfill the law, but in fulfilling the law, he's teaching them the real depths of it. It's not that you have to think about the law in terms of it's what makes you clean. It shows what's dirty. Now, the best illustration I could give you to help you really understand what Jesus is teaching here is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen on SNL. If you recollect the sketch, if you don't, I'll just give you a little bit of a byline for what it's about. It was Romano Tours. And the whole gist of it was vacation service. We're going to take you to Italy. We're going to show you all these amazing things. But he's speaking out of the context. It's Adam Sandler playing the character. He's speaking out of the context of, if you don't like your life where you are, don't think you're going to come on this vacation. It's going to be amazing. If you don't like your life where you are, this vacation isn't going to fix it. Now, he's putting this out as like a PSA for his business because he's not going to have satisfied clients. So some of the wording was hilarious. If you're sad at home, you're going to be sad at Italy because you're still the same person. Please do not come thinking this trip will fix all your problems. It's a vacation, not a miracle. At one point he says, "We can take you hiking, but we can't make you like hiking." talking about romantic endeavors on trips like this. He's like, if you don't like your body at home, you won't like it in Italy. And it's a hilarious breakdown about this reality that it's not what's external. The external can't fix, but it's the internal. Now, here's the thing that I want to watch out for, this ditch of no vigilance or hypervigilance. How do we live in this place that we can sustain guarding our house with wisdom? We clean it with truth, we guard it with wisdom. I think there's a lot of people that I've talked to over the years that, whether it's diagnosable or not, have some kind of moral scrupulosity OCD. That is a definable form of OCD. If you've ever talked to anybody that's been diagnosed with it, it's hell on earth. Why? Because every bad thought they think comes from them and they feel bad about it. Not understanding theologically that sometimes the enemy fires fiery arrows at our minds trying to deceive us. I don't have moral scrupulosity OCD. So I'm like, oh, that thought wasn't from me. But for somebody that does, it's a real condition and they can loop around this. And they've found amazing ways to help people with OCD break through. And I've seen a lot of times over the years, even if people don't have it in some diagnosable way, we almost keep people self-flagellating themselves with shame. Because what a piece of crap I am. Was I perfectly honest there? I don't know if I was. Did I really? We start hyper obsessing over this. That is a terrible spot to live in. That's not freedom. I don't want to live there. But I also don't want to live in a place that I'm not vigilant. So what do? What we're going to see today is there's a basic place that we can live with this model. It's our job to clean the house with truth, and then we guard it with wisdom. But there's some basic realities to being able to guard our house with wisdom. You don't go to bed at night and open the door up, maybe put your flat screen out on the porch. You would never do that. There's just a basic way you think about you would lock up your house at night. I think one of the things that's surreal for me, we don't do this on the Site Shift side as we work with companies and leaders. We have a course called Figure That Parenting Out, but we don't do a lot of parenting stuff, but we're helping them lead their whole lives better. And yes, we're focused on their business, but they bring their whole self into it. And if you coach anybody right now that's raising children in the preteen, teen years, on the boys' side, what they're dealing with how awesome video games are, and it's not that video games are terrible, but anything can become a master. What's happening right now with the engineered THC and how ER trips for psychosis are skyrocketing. Used to, you'd have to work to get it. Now it's just easy. And again, I'm not like weighing in any kind of purity police way on that specific issue or video games, but clearly anything can be out of control. Now for sure, I'll weigh in on this issue. What's happening with porn? For me, if you talk to anyone that's in the throes of raising boys right now, and like it's staggering the evil that can come in the door and what's right there. If they're raising girls on the girl side of things, what social media has done, because they can really bully each other in groups, and the comparison and the beauty standards and the cutting. Like there's just some stuff that's really clear and basic to say evil's crouching at your door. And it doesn't take a lot of rocket science to say we got to be vigilant. I remember my daughter and a friend went to a restaurant that it's a franchise restaurant. They'd gone into this place, and this guy was kind of flirting with them. But of course, girls have a radar creep factor. So he's flirting with them, and I think he gave one of them their meals, both of them their meals. They didn't interact with him. They go back in a second time, sometime later, and he knew their name. They never gave him their name, right? Totally creeped out. I can't even remember all the details now. There was some more to it. All I know is when I heard it, I energetically went to that location, asked to speak to the manager, told her what was happening, because evil's crouching at your door. You got to be vigilant. I had a guy that wanted to take one of my daughters to a dance, and I'm like, there's no way you're riding with him in that car. I haven't been like that a lot as a dad. There's just no way. I'll take you to the restaurant. I pulled out to the edge of the parking lot, just sat and was going to wait. He pulls up, starts doing donuts in his little old sports car. What did I do? I pulled out my cell phone, just started video recording it. I got proof. I'm being vigilant. I'm going to watch out for danger that's coming in. It doesn't take a lot of rocket science to figure this out. But what happens for a lot of people is rather than getting into these finer areas of where it takes a lot of wisdom, getting beyond the easy black and white ones, where there's a lot of gray. I've seen a lot of Christians, because they don't know how to rethink evil and understand evil as a presence of like dirt, they start falling into all the things that are a bad understanding of evil. You know, they just figure like, I just need to get whatever is the newest thing out there for how to fight evil. If I get that new right devotional, if I get that new right teaching, if I hook up with this right group of people and they're going to have the answers for me because they're kind of on the cutting edge of everything God's doing right now. And I'm not saying God doesn't do new things at the edges, but I think about this in terms of health. I saw a video a few weeks ago that was really funny. It was a time traveler. So this guy's sitting there, he's eating steak and eggs. And the guy comes in, he's like, don't eat the eggs, they're bad for you. We know that. I'm from the future. Comes back. Okay, wait, you can eat the whites, not the yolks. Comes back. Actually, we've learned more about cholesterol. The egg's good for you, don't eat the steak. Comes back. Actually, the steak's good for you. Comes back. You know, and you can see where all this is headed. They do one with carbs. There's all this crazy stuff. Basically, it just comes back. It's like, hey, we don't really know a lot. It's a lot genetics. Do it in moderation. Enjoy yourself. You know, all these kind of basic things that, of course, make sense. And so I've seen growing up in my Christian life, like little things that start to take off and like, we got to pray this way. We got to act this way because of evil. I've seen things get real formulaic, you know, and that happens a lot in the intensity of what we've talked about in this series with like, you got to have the right prayer with exorcism. I see it in the misunderstanding of spiritual intimacy. We're not going to be able to guard our house with wisdom without an intimate connection with God. I don't have an intimate connection with God because I walk through a progression like I was taught growing up, the ACTS prayer, adore, confess, thanksgiving, supplication. God, I really love you. Sorry, I'm such a piece of crap. Thank you for making me alive. Will you please help Angie Hicks like me? Right? Boom, 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 boom. It's like you're working God over. How weird would it be if one of my kids came up to me when they were little and they were like, Dad, you know you're the man. I got to be straight with you. I didn't brush my teeth last night. But I'm really thankful you bought me a toothbrush. Would you fill up my sippy cup? I mean, like, just ask for your sippy cup to be filled up. We're in relationship. You don't have to work me over. But this is what happens. Some people fall into a place that it's the demon behind every bush, the devil behind every door. I think we've adequately deconstructed this, but as we build this house analogy out, it's funny to me to think about like what happens with smoke detectors now. So if any of you are in any kind of living arrangement with new smoke detectors, you cook and they go off. Like nothing's even burning. Like you cook and they go off. They're so super sensitive. Well, this hypersensitivity where we're paranoid about what the devil's doing behind every bush, eventually we're going to numb out to that noise. We're not going to take it serious. Then it goes off at 3 a.m. when you need to know something's happening and you ignore it. I think one of the things too, because we don't understand evil, I've seen this happen. I've seen people outsource their vigilance to someone else. What I mean? I think for a lot of people, and I saw this in 15 years of pastoring, they're more codependent on the church to think for them than actually have a deep relationship with Jesus. And I want to encourage them, like, hey, at least you're going. It's a good start. But there has to be something that progresses beyond that. Like someone else will guard me. Someone else will watch out for me. And then, of course, there's the easy one, the purity police, the purity bouncers, the virtue signalers that are legalistically doing hygiene theater. And I see that in extreme left companies with HR departments, and I see it in extreme right situations in Christians. And this is why Jesus in Matthew 23 said, you strain out a gnat but swallow a camel. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law. In other words, Jesus says, like, you put a cloth over a drink so you drink it and don't swallow the smallest of unclean animals, the gnat. And then he says, you take your garden herbs and you chop them up and you give a tenth to the temple. But you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You missed it. You're not giving people what they need. You're not ending their suffering. You're not living faithful to God. And then he says, you should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. Remember, Jesus fulfilled the law. He didn't say they were stupid for doing that. He praised them for doing it. Good job. You're trying to live externally the best you can, but you miss the internal, the heart. And he said, you strain out a gnat, but swallow a camel because you don't live these values. So what Jesus is trying to do for us is help us to understand we are like a house, and that house can be sacred space. And he is wisdom personified to help us live that sacred space. And how's he going to help us do that today? I want you to look at a passage with me, and it's something that we've looked at before, but it's something I wanted to repeat and go a little deeper in today because it's so powerful. So we're looking at Matthew 6. We're looking at what you may know as the Lord's Prayer. I'm going to read starting in verse 9 just because I want you to get the context, but we're only going to break down one principle. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. Now let's stop right there. So God, you're there. I'm here. As above, so below. Help me today depend on you for what I need. Now, it's not like you have to engineer your economics to live daily on a payment that comes into you. I love the world we've lived in for a long time now where we've figured a lot of these things out. But there is a danger to it. There is a danger to knowing the next 3 months are covered, the next 6 months are covered, the next 2 years are covered. And that danger is we get away from the dependency on God. It's like God doesn't want us to be infantile in our dependence on God. He's growing us. He's developing us. He's making us stronger. He's helping us have more and more wisdom for how to guard our house. But I still need the power of the Holy Spirit. I still need that intimacy with the Father to know what's going on. And so then Jesus says, I want you to pray this way. And I like the older word. The newer word, forgive us our debts. This comes out of a understanding around the 1500s that sin is only something that is between you and God and you and others as a debt. There's a deeper way to think about it. It's a trespass. Look, if you live in shalom wholeness with God, that blesses all of us. If I live in shalom wholeness with God, that blesses all of you. We are blessed to be a blessing. When I don't live that way, that hurts you. When you don't live that way, that hurts me. So what Jesus is teaching that's very powerful here in the Lord's Prayer is we can think about who we are, our lives and our communities and the places we lead as spaces that can be sacred but need to be protected. Boundaries. Now again, I don't track as much or love the therapeutic conversation around boundaries because it's such a victim mindset. I like more this way of thinking about it based in this prayer, which is holistic, and it's this. If I sin against you, if I have selfish ambition in my heart and I run you over as a leader, if I have cowardice in my heart and I don't talk to you about the thing that I need to talk to you about, whatever it is, that's why Jesus said it's the things that come out of us, and he walked through that list in an increasing way of depth. When that happens, when I live that way, the sacred space gets defiled. The house isn't guarded. So I've got to clean it with truth and set the protection back up again. And so Jesus is saying you can pray this way every day. You're saying, forgive me of the way that I have been, forgive me for my trespasses as I forgive those who have trespassed against. Now, sometimes I may just violate sacred space or the boundary with God. God alone knows what I did. I did that for me. I didn't do that for them. I don't have to tell them that. If you've done something that has hurt your relationship with God and other people don't know about it and there's no reason they need to know about it, sometimes you want to confess it to them just so you can unload your dirty laundry on them and you can feel better, but now they got to carry it. You need wisdom in that. That's why it's wisdom, guard the house. But you do get a clean account between you and God, and then you get a clean account between you and others. And if they've done that to you, and we also have forgiven those who have trespassed against us, those who have come and done something against me. I'll tell you full stop right now. I am blown away by how much politics is capturing our attention. It used to be that in a lot of ways, politics was more downstream of culture. And I think more and more it's moving upstream. And there's no way I could get behind the vengeance of Donald Trump, because I think his moral failings in these areas have a quality and a factor that rots us from the inside. There's no way I could get behind the vacuous, insane victim mindset of the thinking on the left. It ruins and kills any society ever. You're not going to find an answer today for the way forward. People are confused about what makes an identity. On the extreme left, they make it the most invalidated part of who they are, their gender and their sexuality, and that's why there's so much pain there. And on the right, they make it their race, and that's why racism exists. On the extremes, I know not everybody fits in these camps. It is Jesus alone who shows us how to live. Personified wisdom, sacred space. It is the answer. And we can't lead others well unless we guard our own house. And we forgive, and we let things go, and we don't have to get the pound of flesh. Now, we still have wisdom. If you keep harming me, I'm going to put up some healthy interactions that are going to protect me. But I would say this: I don't know anyone that I respect of substantive quality in their character that is living a great life of impact that hasn't had to forgive some of the worst offenses. The people that I love the most, I have forgiven them of some things, and it is not easy, and sometimes I don't want to, but it's the only way I'm transformed. So what Jesus is saying in this prayer is, this is what it means to guard the house. And we're going to add another layer to this. And he says, and lead us not into temptation. God doesn't do the tempting or testing, but we do step into circumstances that undo us, unlearn us, so we can become more wise. But deliver us from the evil one. And so there's a reality here that Jesus is teaching into. And if you've taken away from this series dirt that evil is minimized, no, there is an evil one seeking to devour you. Peter talks about it like a lion who's going around trying to eat you alive. Back then, think about it. I mean, you know the story. David killed a lion with a slingshot. Catch the craziness of this. There were lions in the wild in that part of the world. That's a thing. I remember talking to a pastor from India one time. He was in a field praying, and he looked up, and there was a cobra staring right at him. And I was like, I can't freaking imagine that, much less a lion. And so what Peter's drawing into in this reference point is like, look, there is evil. Don't minimize it. But you have an advanced security system in your house. Like, you have the cutting edge security system. It's not annoying. It's not overdone. It's not hypervigilant. But like, there's video cameras. There's sound monitoring. There's flood monitoring. There's window glass shattering monitoring. Everything. It's perfect. It's the Holy Spirit. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts. We have that in us. We just are so numbed out from the sensitivity of it that a lot of us have just basically unplugged everything rather than learn how to be protected. So Jesus is saying, look, you could have some kind of moral failing, and it's a relational violation between you and God, between you and others. So don't let that linger. Ephesians 4:26 says this, be angry and don't sin. I love that. You can be angry and not sin. It's what you do with it. Don't let the sun go down on your wrath, your anger, and don't give a foothold to the devil. Deal quickly with it, deal quickly with it, deal quickly with it. Now, how that's taught to a lot of people that to me is dysfunctional is you don't go to bed angry in your marriage or your marriage is going to suck. I mean, I've kind of heard that over the years. Here's the problem with the context of that time You know how relaxing it is when you sit around a fire pit, right? Like a fall evening, sitting around the fire pit. Afterward, you're like, man, I just feel kind of caught up with myself now. I feel relaxed. This is awesome. They were doing that every night. So the idea is you're sitting around the fire pit and there's a lot of time passing and you're sitting there and you're like, man, I really need to talk to them about this. This is kind of stewing in you. Well, that's the idea. In our modern living, I've found I probably should not talk about anything substantive after 9, maybe 8:30, maybe 8:30. Last night, Dancing with the Stars was on in our house, and I get so excited about Dancing with the Stars. Not because I like the show, but because I love hanging out with my family, but I go to bed early that night. And they make it an event. They all watch it together. Sometimes my daughter who's moved out comes back and they watch it. I tried to watch a TV show like, this is my time. I'm going to watch an action show. I fell asleep like 5 minutes in. I think I was asleep by 8:20. It was amazing. I freaking loved it. It was a beautiful moment because there's something about modern living. We get a little more tired. It gets worse. It doesn't mean this in a legalistic way. Don't read it that way. It just means this. When something is stewing in you and you don't deal with it, very quickly it rots you from the inside because you're not guarding your house with wisdom. I went through a season in 2008 and 2009 where my neighbor let me borrow his truck and I literally drove it for like 15 or 18 months. I was hustling for the day's groceries. Like I didn't have a shot of adrenaline from mission for about 15 to 18 months. It was a giant period of suck. It was like daily. And one of the things that I had to do to stay clean with myself, I literally almost had Tourette's cussing in my head. Not outside, because, you know, there's factual language, there's persuasive language, and there's grieving language. And that's why that was happening for me. That's a way that you can grieve. And I just knew, like, I can't get this stuff stuck in me or I'm going to be a worse version of myself. I have to keep all this ordered. And so I'm pray fighting with God over and over and over and over again. This is powerful when we start to grasp it. I mean, yeah, we entertain angels unaware. I don't understand that. It's a powerful thing to me. And my door is open to understand that the enemy does oppose things and angels fight. All I know is Paul said in Colossians, like, don't get swept away with all this. Focus more on what's happening here, guarding your heart, because that's the place of wisdom, that we have to be sober and watchful, like Peter said. Because if we don't, what ends up happening? The lion comes into the house. We're not guarding it with wisdom, and we get in a place that we get overcome with the infestations from the dirt. The dirt comes in, the infestation comes in. So God calls us to guard our house. We regularly cleansed with owning what we've done. You may know the word is repentance and forgiveness, and we stay vigilant. We're not vigilant in a way that exhausts us, hypervigilant. We let the advanced security system of the Holy Spirit help us, but we're also not numb and dumb to what's happening. So we're going to shift into the extend part of the model for the last 2 parts of this series. But if I summed up everything we've come through this point, I would give it to you this way. Number 1, you're the house. Clean and lock up each night. That's it. Just clean and lock up each night. If you leave the kitchen messy, does that feel good the next morning? Now, really, whatever your system is on that, I don't care. I'm just giving you as a metaphor. Like, clean the house with truth and lock up. Just lock the door. Shut the garage. Now, if my family were here, they're like, Dad, come on, you big hypocrite. You fall asleep all the time and forget the garage is open. And that's true. I'm speaking spiritually here. But I want to live in shalom, wholeness with God. So I'm maintaining a vigilance, not a hypervigilance, just a vigilance of saying, I'm going to clean and lock the house up each night. I don't have to brush my teeth 10 times a day and floss 10 times a day. And oh my gosh, there's a piece of dirt on my teeth. That's that moral scrupulosity OCD. No, I just clean and lock up each night. A little bit of house hygiene. Number 2, you do a house scan. You just make sure everything's okay. One quick scan, apartment scan, wherever you live. How do I scan? I use something that we have on the Site Shift side called validation diagnostic. And we can get a copy of it to you if you want. It's a way for me to watch. At the relational level, am I getting bitter or am I caring? Am I frustrated or fascinated by who they are? At the problem level of my life, am I calm or angry? Can I relax with this problem enough to find an innovative breakthrough? And at the vision level of my life, am I ready to sacrifice to see the vision happen, or do I feel dread right now? I don't really feel a sense of motivation to go into what I'm going into. And a lot of people hear this idea that you can't have a vision without sacrificing, and they think you got to sacrifice your values. You don't sacrifice your values, you sacrifice your insecurities. So how I do a house scan is I just look. How am I relationally? Am I frustrated or fascinated? Caring or bitter? How am I with problems? Am I calm or angry? Am I stuck feeling a victim mindset, or am I shifting? And at the vision level, am I sacrificing my insecurities to see the visions become true that I want to have happen in my life? That's how I guard with wisdom. Third, let's think one layer out from the house. I fortify the gates. For most of human history, houses had some kind of gate system, so it wasn't just right up to the front door. There's also fence and gating. So I'm going to fortify the gates. What do I mean by that? I put systems in my life that help me guard with wisdom. That's the only way I can sustain vigilance. I'm going to get numb and dumb. I tend to not be hypervigilant. Some of you may be. I'm going to get numb and dumb. I'm going to get lazy-eyed. I'm not going to fall into the paranoia. That tends to not be me, but some people it is. If I don't fortify the gates, what do I mean by fortify the gates? I lock up, I scan the house, and I make sure the gates are strong. How? Through systems that keep me vigilant. I have systems. I have things that I review before our leadership team meeting each week as an organization that keep me sharp to the things I want to pay attention to. I have things that I put in place that are just systems, so I don't have to think, they just happen. I mean, that's what happens if you're really guarding with wisdom. You're putting systems and structure in your life. You're setting a calendar that you prefer. Doesn't mean you always get to follow it. You're putting systems and structure. You clean with truth, use systems and structure. One of the most powerful things I did, that is why my relationship with my kids is so fun. I would put the car in park, and I would have 3 prayers or 3 meditations every night. Okay, so you win the 4th quarter, you win the game. This is the 4th quarter. The first 3 don't matter right now. Number 1, God, help me know I'm not defined by how much I did or didn't get done today, but who I'm becoming in you. I got to let all that go because I never get it all done. That's just my wiring. I'm not defined by how much I did or didn't get done. Boom, let me let it all go. Number 2, help me go in there and serve them with all I have. So I'm not going in on the phone. I'm not dragging the day in. I'm not asking them to meet my mood. I'm meeting theirs where it is. Help me go in there and serve them with all I got. I'm also not going to go in there and be like, I had a hard day and all these toys are out and I'm going to kick these around and be grumpy. Third, help me go in there and drain the life out of them. Now that sounds weird to you probably without some explanation. But when they were little and they were like, Dad, look at my Minecraft world. Oh my gosh. Yeah, those are long. Those are long moments. Do you know what? I would make it a game. Show me again. I'm going to drain you. I was in a car recently with a driver. It was a 2-hour drive to a speaking engagement, and the driver not once asked me a question. And it just so draining, all he was sharing. And a little bit into it, I was like, oh, this is like when my kids were little. I flipped the energy. I'm like, I'm going to drain the heck out of this guy. I'm going to get out of the car and he's going to be like, I hope I never take him anywhere again. I'm going to ask him so many freaking questions. And I just made a game out of it. And I was curious and learning, but that's the spirit of it in a fun way. Now, those 3 things were mine. See, this is the point of guarding your house with wisdom. Clean your house with truth. That's black and white stuff. Guard your house with wisdom. That's gray stuff. You got to figure out yours. But you put these in place. And you guard your house with wisdom, you get to live the joy of where we're headed next for this series. I hope you enjoyed this teaching from 15and. Go to 15and.org, share these resources with others, and click the Donate Now button to participate in funding this mission.